Welcome to another episode of the Voices of Boyle podcast. In this episode, both myself and Florence sit down and have a great chat with Christy Wynne. You can't get more Boyle than Christy, having lived in Main Street all his life, apart from a brief stint in London back in the 1960s. Christy starts off by taking us all the way back to the 1940s, and over the course of the conversation, he gives us a great insight into Boyle through the years up to the present day. We absolutely loved the conversation with Christy, and we hope you guys enjoy it too.
Today we are thrilled to be joined by none other than Christy Wynne. Christy, thank you so much for welcoming us into your home today.
You're very welcome.
Lovely fire on here on a cold Saturday. And
Can't beat it.
you can't beat it. Isn't that right, Christy?
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And before we start off, Christy, I'd just like to say that it was back in May 2020. Myself and Florence it was a fine summer's evening, and we sat down and we started reading some of your blog posts that Martin had put up on the internet.
Yes.
And it was the big snow, the big snow of 47, that I just turned around to Fleur and I said, after reading that, you know what, wouldn't it be great if we went and started recording not only your stories and your voice, Christy, but other people in Boyle. So that's where the inspiration for this podcast came about.
To do that, I see.
So it's brilliant that we finally have got the man himself on to give a few of his own little stories and recollections of growing up in Boyle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Christy, let's take things back a little bit. Born and reared in Boyle, you spent most of your life here in this lovely house in Main Street. Can you take us back, Christy, to those early days? Talk to us a little about where you were born and where you grew up and those times.
Yes. Well, I'm now 86 years of age. I have a very vivid memory, thank God, in terms of the past. So I can go back to actually the early 40s when I was maybe just about 6 years of age. 36 I was born, 1936. So I could venture a guess and say I have recollection going back to 1942, which is 60, 70 years ago. So that I remember talking about the blizzard just a while back. I went to school that morning, 1947, so in other words, I was 11. But Mother God rest her, I don't think realised the amount of snow that had fallen. Or we're a news agent, like, just as a matter of interest, so she'd be opening early for the newspapers. But the papers hadn't even arrived at this stage, but I headed off for school anyway at about 9:15. And there was quite a fall of snow outside. Mother blessed me with the holy water that was in the front, inside the hall door. Say, bless yourself and mind yourself today. And I crossed over into a track that was made in the snow by, I would suggest, a lorry or a horse and dray that came out of Camden's yard in Patrick Street. So I said that'd be handy now to walk on, because the snow at that time, even at that so early in the days of the blizzard, it was probably a foot deep, if not more. So I walked in the track till it ended at the entrance into Camden's yard, the big yard where that mill stuff and all that. So it came to a halt like Hansel and Gretel and the pathway. The pathway ceased and Christy got a little bit nervous. All I could see was a mountain of snow in front of me. So I turned and I came back home within minutes. So Mother, of course, was surprised in one respect, but like was delighted in another that she kind of suddenly realised how much snow had fallen, and it was still snowing. And as a matter of interest, like, I remember it so well, that was on the Monday night, Tuesday morning. It snowed all Tuesday. It snowed into Wednesday midday. I remember it so well because as kids we'd be all mad on snow anyway, and throwing snowballs and kind of all that's involved, getting things and trying to slide your way along on the snow and so on, which we did up on Green Street Hill and on the Crescent. But it snowed for nearly 3 days, 2.5, 3 days. But anyway, that was such a memory, like at that young age. You could never forget even kind of the details. I remember throwing snowballs, kind of a battle, if you like, among a group of us further up Main Street. And the detective who used to come into us for his paper on his way to the guards' barracks, Bill Doyle was his name, and he always smoked the pipe, and he used to buy his tobacco from Mother God rest him. And of course we had to go at Detective Doyle, and some of us knocked the pipe out of his mouth. And we had to apologise and go around searching in the snow up at Dodd's, which is now Mary McGee's. And we couldn't find it anywhere, and we were in a state, and Detective Doyle was kind of a little bit annoyed, like, fun is fun, but like, what about my pipe? But at the end of the search, we did find it after about 10 minutes, but you'd never believe, we were so surprised. When we knocked whoever it was, I wasn't the culprit, but there was 4 or 5 was thrown somewhere. The pipe, when it left his mouth, it landed on the windowsill of Brady's restaurant, Brady's, not on the ground. It was shot out and landed on the windowsill. So we were all looking at the ground. No sign of Bill Doyle's pipe anywhere. And the longer we searched, the more he was getting annoyed, and the more kind of like we were thinking, we're going to be in trouble over this. And lo and behold, one of them suddenly, I think it was Bill Doyle himself, says, I have a boys, you're forgiven, go home now and conduct yourselves. But anyway, that was only one little episode of the blizzard. But then as the days went by, then of course, Lough Key froze up. So you could actually ski, you could walk to the islands, which we did, like not on our own, like with some adults. You could walk to the first island, Church Island, and a few more like from the far side. That wouldn't be too far from the mainland, but it was so solid now. This will be a day or two later now. This will be, the snow fell Monday night, Tuesday morning. We'd be talking about Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then if you went up onto the top of the Rockadoon, which overlooks the lake, you had a complete view of the lake, and you could see people walking to the islands, maybe on a Sunday like, or someday if you got the opportunity of being brought up to the Rockadoon, and there was a little narrow road up to the top of it. But I remember it so well, seeing people and saying, could you imagine people walking on water?
My God.
But this was the snow frozen up.
Yeah.
So like, that would be one of the most vivid memories of my childhood. I could never forget it. And I did write, one of the first stories I ever wrote was on the blizzard. Now, another favourite of mine, like in terms of really happy memories, would be Christmas shopping in Dublin, getting ready for Christmas. Having a toy shop, and we actually, I won't say specialised in toys, but we were actually one of the main toy shops. There's only 3 or 4 in the town, but we actually did sell an awful lot of toys because Mother just kind of specialised in it, and kind of, we had a number of places in Dublin, we call it. So I'd be brought up, or maybe Harry, God rest him, the older brother, some of us would be brought up for part of the holiday when she was actually doing the Christmas shopping. And we go on the old steam train, and it was such a sensation, the old steam engine, and stopping at every station on the way, and the old steam, and the noise of it as it pulled up at Carrick and Shannon and Drummond and Longford and Edgeworthstown and so on. It was real, and looking out then and see who's on the platform, is there anybody travelling? But having got there then, her first call would be Eason's, the big news agents. But they also used to specialise in, of course, books, which they still do, paperbacks, annuals, greeting cards, writing paper, which was a very popular gift for nuns back in the 40s. Nearly every girl student in the convent, if she had to buy something for the Reverend Mother or her teacher, it would be a box of stationery, because nuns apparently did an awful lot of writing that time. So there was a huge sale on, when I say a writing pad and envelopes in a box, made up in a nice attractive box. So Eason's had that item as well, and of course biros, if you like, and so on, fountain pens. There was no biros that time, it was only fountain pens and ink. But like the point is, she'd spend nearly the whole day in Eason's. There was 4 levels in it. One level was kind of greeting cards. The next level was toys. The third one was stationery, when I mentioned writing paper, biros, and all that goes with it. And the fourth one was did I mention greeting cards? Anyway, so it took nearly the day, her day's shopping. And then the icing on the cake, in my opinion, was like being what one might say, which was like a good customer, and we had visited nearly all 4 departments. We got a meal on the house. We got a meal in their dining hall. In part of Easton, for their staff, like. But they brought usually a good customer that was what you might say a good buyer.
He'd look after them.
You'll have to have a little snack, Mrs. Wynne, before you go home on the train. So of course that was the icing on the cake, was to go in and then have a choice, whatever it might be like. But that was really kind of like that was extra. Yeah. And then we might cross over then. Like I think I only did this once. Santi, dressed up, was in Cleary's opposite. Cleary's big shop, which was opposite Eason's. And I mean, at least once maybe, she brought me up. But he was down in a kind of in a basement area rather than ground level or the upper levels, 4-story buildings. So I remember going down there like with her. I'd have been about maybe 7 at the time, 7, 8. And what I do remember, like in hindsight, he had a great Dublin accent, because I remember, because I listened to a funny accent for Santi. Well, young fellow, were you good were you good all year? What do you want me to bring you? Because I remember saying to my mother afterwards, he sounds just like a Dublin man, doesn't he? So what kind of toys would you like? Were you good all year? Mrs. Wynne, was you good? Oh, you were very good. Well, you just tell me and I'll try and organise it for you.
Yeah.
With a great job. Bye now, and be good this year now, be good next year for your mother, and so on. So anyway, that was one of the great occasions of my childhood. Now I suppose, like, to go at random after that, like, sort of thing, the fair day in Boyle was kind of like something special, because a big fair was a day off holidays, was a day off school.
Right. Because
there'd be so many cattle, like, there was a fair every year, every month. 12 in the year, if not 13.
Wow.
But there was 3 or 4 exceptionally big ones that cattle were herded from, even as far as Leitrim, like, and up beyond Carrick-on-Shannon and up Elphin, brought into the fair in Boyle. It was a great fair for what they call store cattle. Okay. Store cattle that were bought and probably during the war years would be actually exported, probably for export for meat for Britain. So, like, I mean, there was a huge amount of cattle. There could be 400 or 500 cattle. The green up at the top of Green Street, like the fair green, it would start there at 6 in the morning, and the farmers would be walking their cattle in from 4 in the morning, and 99% of them would be gathered in the fair green in Low Parks. And then as the deals were made, then they were herded down or marched down by their owners onto the Crescent. And then there'd be a number of lorries there, like, available for certain customers. And when I say certain customers, I have 6 cattle, would you be able to bring them to such a place? But a lot of them ended up at the railway station. And at the railway station, there might be 10 or 20 empty caravans. Empty wagons, shunted in specially from the night before for the fair in Boyle. So that I worked for 2 summers in the goods office in Boyle as a little summer job. And this is why I remember it so well. A good fair day, you could have 20 wagons, 15 to 20 wagons with 10 beasts to each wagon. Mm. So that was by rail alone. Not to mention lorries and smaller not a jeep, but that would bring maybe 2 cattle or 3. So, like, all that was a kind of, and the day off, you spent nearly all the day out, and then if you were lucky, there'd be farmers doing a bit of bargaining around the Royal Hotel, and as you were around to Creighton's or what was Cryans in those days. And he might have maybe just 3 or 4 cattle. Actually, it used to be a bit of a horse fair in one corner of it as well. But a farmer now and again might say, young lad, would you ever keep an eye on those 2 cattle? I'm just going into the Royal for a quick drink. I won't be long. Will you mind them? So they kind of wondered, and first was it funny? He said, no, I'm serious. He said, I'll be on about 10 minutes. And here. And he gave you 6pence. And of course you were made up. Right. 6pence, and you stood minding these cattle till himself and his mate came back out of either Paddy Daly's, Charlie Mullaney's, or Cryans, or all 4 were together. So like that was a kind of an extra interest for the fair day in Boyle, like one again that you'd have to remember as part of your childhood growing up.
Yeah.
Then, like, there were so many others. There was, we'll say, the Doon Show, going down swimming.
Yes.
Walking down. If you were lucky to have a bicycle, you were lucky. If not, you had to hitchhike. And if there was a farmer that so happened to be going home early in his donkey and cart, you might kind of dare ask him, any chance of it? Sit up here, you're all right there. But you'll have to sing a song for me.
Ah. You have to be a trade.
Yeah, there had to be a trade. And so we'd sit up in up at the horse, a donkey and cart, and he'd be going out the Rocket down towards Corrigan Row. So, like, quite often, like, you'd have that experience, and again, like, the memory of it, and the farmer smoking his pipe, and the smoke from walnut plug going up, like, and the bag of hay in the back, and you'd be sitting on the back on the bag of hay.
And back then, Christy, the Doon Shore was called Leyland Shore, was that?
Yeah, well, the only reason it was called Leyland Shore was there was a little hut or summer residence which is still there, and it was a Dr. Leland had it as a summer rest home or a holiday home. When I say a holiday home, he wouldn't have to walk out, as I wrote one time in an article. He'd have a boatman to sort of row him down to the Doon Shore, and he had only 100 yards to walk into his little summer home. So Dr. Leland, so like for that reason, it got the name of Leland Shore.
But it was called many other names, wasn't it?
Well, Doon like would be the name of the town, and the same as Termon or Knocknashee or Mockmoyne. It was called the Doon. Doon would be the name of the town, and so like Doon Shore. But like we all knew it by Leland Shore, and we all learned to swim there because it was a very safe place. It was very gradual, like. There was no deep holes or a big drop in the level of the water, you know. Yeah. It was kind of very, 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 very even, like just gradual, just like the tide going out. So a group of us, especially during the summer months, we'd head off there nearly every day or so many days a week, and we might even there was a little country shop on the way. Fairly near the Doon now, not quite at the Doon Shore itself. We were still up on the road, but like it's still been a Mrs. Casey. She had one son, Paddy Joe, and he ended up having a travelling shop. He used to travel around with his van with Cadbury's and Roundtrees and Ernie's chocolates and biscuits and all that as his way of living. But they had a little shop, a home shop, where his mother kept a small range of groceries. And minerals, and cigarettes if you had reached the age that you'd chance a cigarette, and then we pool a few pennies and buy 5 cigarettes and split them up between us. But Mrs. Casey was a grand old lady. And then the biscuits, the little added attraction about her biscuits was the biscuit tin had a glass lid on it, a see-through. In those times, 95% of the tins of biscuit were all aluminium. The lid at all was completely aluminium, and the name of the biscuit was now Kimberley or Coconut Cream or Mikado and Marietta and so on. But hers had a glass lid on 5 or 6 of them, and you could see into it, and it was an added attraction. Oh, I like that one, Mr. Casey, could have those. That's Mikado, right? Could we have a few of those, please? And maybe a few of those. And she said, do you want me to open them all up? And she said, well, Sean likes them, and I like them. Come on. So open the brown paper back, and we put in like the different biscuits. And then a few of us ventured actually cigarettes a few times. Now at this stage we had grown a bit. I was more than 7.
I'd hope so, Christy.
At this stage I was probably about 12 or 13. So we'd pool our few pennies, and if Mrs. K, what we used to do was the biggest of the group, and there might be 5 or 6 of us going together. The liners, the father was the sergeant. The Colgans, their father was the agricultural instructor, like locally. He lived in Abbey Terrace, and some of the McCartans, the father was the station master, Pat McCartan. So there'd be about 5 or 6. So we'd all pool a few pennies, and we might get 5 or 10 gold flake. There was no tip cigarettes in those days. There was Woodbines, which would be too strong. Like you'd cough your whole way to Lynn with the Woodbines. So we get gold flake or Afton, and we split them. There was no tips on them, so we'd break them and so on. And Chancellor, and we'd smoke a few of them, and that finished our day. Then by the time we got home, then particularly if it was a weekend on a Friday, no school on Saturday, we might plea with our mothers or fathers, could we go to the film? Particularly if there was a cowboy film. And there was an awful lot of Western films in the 40s and 50s. 8 out of 10 films was a Western. As the thing, well, was the odd murder one, or espionage, or call it spy, war. But an awful lot of them were actually Western cowboys, and we loved the cowboys. So the famous 5 or 6 would gather again together on the Friday, and we'd end up in the cinema to complete a perfect day.
Wasn't it? It was perfect, wasn't it, Christy?
Simple old days, Christy.
Pardon?
Simple old days as well.
Oh, very simple and harmless, and not creating problems for anybody.
No.
And there was never any fights or anything, really and truly. We all pulled exceptionally well, and there was really kind of an exchange of views where you might, when I say an exchange, that you sort of fell out about something.
Yeah.
It would have to be something very serious before you'd reach that stage.
Yes.
So that was again one of the memories, and the Soldiers' Barracks, which is now the King House, that was vacated. And there was just one small wing with part of what they call the FCA, the regular soldiers were gone. After the war, 1945, 39-45, they went to Atlow and Longford, wherever it might be, the regular soldiers. Many of them got married in Boyle and settled in Boyle and had families in Boyle, and I know some of them yet. Their children, their grandchildren. But after the war, 90% of the barracks was vacant, had been occupied for the years, bedrooms and dining room, a ball alley, which was really icing on the cake, because we all loved a bit of handball, and there was a handball alley for the soldiers. Kind of an open alley, not closed in, 2 side walls and the front wall. But Mr. Murray, the caretaker, he was a carpenter by trade, but he was also responsible for kind of caretaking the guards' barracks, the soldiers' barracks, as they called it at that time, not the King House. So he had 2 sons, John, Joe, and Junior. Junior was just Philip. The father was Philip, so Junior's the son, a great friend of ours, an extra close buddy. Junior was another one of this famous 5 or 6. So he let us in to play Cowboys and Indians in what is now the King House. And you had 4 flights, if not 5. You had cellars in the basement, prisons I should say, for maybe occasional time, maybe soldiers that didn't toe the line or committed an offence of some description, or call it what you like. But there was 3 or 4 or 5 small prisons with cell windows with bars on them and all that. So old Philip Murray, junior father, he gave us permission with kind of a stipulation. Now, lads, you can go in and play around, like, but like, I don't want to see any window broken. You wouldn't, there was no furniture to break, but like windows or maybe something else, and I don't want to see any, and you can play as long as you like, but like make sure that there's no damage done. So we'd spend regular afternoons between the 3 or 4 flights, and you could even go out on the roof. But old Mr. Murray didn't know that. But a few was there was actually windows overlooking out down to the ground below, and you could climb out onto a ledge. As soldiers, we remember as kids seeing soldiers lying out on the ledge was quite wide all round. It probably would be 2 to 3 foot width all round. And you see now and again soldiers lying out like that on the so some of us used to venture, but if Mr. we just climb out and peep. But like if Mr. Murray had seen that barrack could be closed, that was it. Like, no more lads, you're not going up there any longer. But like that was a great outing to go into the barracks regularly and then play a game of handball. And the only other offices used in it, like I'm going off on a little aside here, would be Board Namona, which was a semi-state body. The government was just after forming it, after the war, 1948. So they had 4 or 5, 6 rooms in it, with office staff, like, but they were away kind of where we played was completely away from. You know what I'm getting at, like that. We wouldn't be in any way causing a bother or noise or anything like that. So Board Namona had offices in it for quite a number of years, up to, I'd venture a guess, from 1946 up to about 1958-60. And then the FCA, which is an offshoot of the regular army, they had a particular wing. And the FCA were in it up to very recent years. The Tiernans and all those were all in it. Richard McGee was a lieutenant in it, and a lot more. And they'd have kind of the occasional, I won't say manoeuvre, but a kind of a come together for, call it a practice or what. And then they might end up in Finner Camp, which was an army camp outside Bundoran. So a certain number of them from the contingent in Boyle would go there for a week, kind of a holiday come training, that sort of thing. But anyway, the King House, as we call it nowadays, was a great attraction. And if it wasn't there, then it was the Abbey. And we could, there was two winding stairs in the Abbey. There was one which is still there, that you can see it from the side of the road at Bowes. It's open at the top. There's the winding stairs up to it. It's still there. If you went in tomorrow, and whoever the caretaker is, I think you'd be allowed to go up there yet. But there was the other bigger winding stairs, which required much more building. You had to climb a wall, get onto a tree, go out onto a branch, onto another wall, onto another level, and climb onto a part where there was a little winding stairs that brought you up to the very top. And you could look out, like, you could see Asselin, you could see the church, everything. You were more or less at the very top. So we used to kind of play hide and go seek there, like, but we were all, if I could say so, we were responsible enough, like, in our own right. We weren't mad. We kind of tried to keep our feet on the ground at all times. But again, wonderful memories, like.
Imagine them being your playground, Christy. Like, imagine that being your playground, King House, the Abbey.
Oh yeah, exactly. And a very unusual. Every shop here in Main Street, which I was born and reared, up to fairly recently, every building on this street, bar maybe one, was a business house. Had a business of some description. Or sales newsagent, there was chemists, there was butchers, there was a dentist,
Hotel.
there was a hotel, there was a few drapers, there was a shoe shop, there was McNamara's up at the end, a guest house, cafe, and also accommodation. They used to keep some of the bank staff who were in the bank straight opposite. Every bit. But on a Sunday morning, back in the late 40s again, I remember like a team of us playing football on Main Street. The only reason I mention that is imagine there wasn't a car. You could play 20 minutes football from the corner up, like full-backs, half-backs, goalkeepers and everything else, like, and you'd hardly ever have to stop once to say, here, there's a car coming. No, I obviously I'm going back to 46, 47. There were so few vehicles in town at the time, like, and maybe immediately after the war. A lot of cars had to be taken off the road during the war, unless there were of vital necessity, a doctor, a priest, or somebody that was or a taxi, a hackney man. But the ordinary person, myself, yourself, we were told there's no petrol. This is the war years. Put your car up on blocks. And there was a lot of people that, well, I won't say a lot, but there was a nice few who had little Ford more, or the little the Ford. It was like a matchbox. quite a few had them, 4 or 5 of them. They were actually had to be garaged because they couldn't get any petrol. They were told, sorry, unless you're actually a doctor, a dentist, a priest, for going on sick duty and things like that. But like, to get back to where I started, we could play football on Main Street after 11:30 Mass until 1 o'clock. And you mightn't have to stop once.
My God.
Till there's a car pass, you know. So it's something like that would stick in with me. And yet every business, every building had a business of some description.
All commercial of some sort.
Yeah.
You talked, Christy, maybe you mightn't have a lot to say about it, but you can decide yourself. In one of your blog posts, you talked about the first time you saw Rockingham House.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I can remember it quite vividly. How it came about was like actually, for a start, not blowing my own trumpet or anything, but the King Harmons had the recount here in the shop for papers.
Right.
For the daily paper, the Irish Times, and. In terms of, after that, I don't know, possibly the Daily Telegraph or the Daily Mail. But they got their papers here from my mother, God rest her, and Christy Wynne was the chauffeur. And he'd drive in every day in their I forget the name of the car now, I mentioned it in the blog, but I forget, I just can't think. It wasn't American, and it was what's well-known British top-of-the-range car.
Jaguar?
Jaguar. I think it was a Jaguar.
Okay.
But anyway,
right, yeah.
Christy Wynne always came in his uniform. Almost like upstairs, downstairs, the actual television series. But Christy used to get 20 players, always for himself. On the book, I remember mother putting in right. Then at the end of the week, he'd pay for his week's. But like the Rockingham account was made up once a month. Newspapers, stationery. Now and then, the stationery I was talking about. They used to get the odd box of stationery for writing and so on, and the odd other item. Not much more than that, but like that sort of stuff. They got it from us. So the man that was over the farmyard, Paddy Morahan was his name. And his grandson used to come every summer. They were, I think, in South London. David Woodward was his name, David, and David would be my age. So he started coming when he was probably about 9 or 10 years of age with his mother to see his granny and granddad. And then on account of them coming into the shop, including Paddy Morahan, who was over the stud, Paddy used to smoke the pipe, and he used to get Eardenmore flake tobacco, and he'd be in every few days for that, or Eardenmore plug. But he'd invite me out when David would be home. He said, Christy, you'll have to come out. David is coming for a week or a fortnight. So when I go out to Moorlands, which is part of the farmyard that's still there, near the remains of the old church. You know that building there near the church?
Yes.
That's there was accommodation. There was private accommodation on both sides. Moorhans had lived on one side, and the other side was a man named Jack Clinch. He was the head butler in the big house. And on the other side you had Paddy Moorhan, who was over the stud farm and the farm generally. So like both had their accommodation, their living quarters. So I go out with David when he come on holidays. So like the first occasion, like just as you mentioned it, Florence, that I remember cycling out. I had a bicycle, Morris bicycle, God rest her, my sister. Cycled out, arrived at the gate, and of course, privately on, the gate had to be opened by Pat Carroll. So of course, David hadn't arrived from the other side. So I was standing at the gate, and I remember, well, young fellow, what are you doing there? Oh, are you waiting for somebody? I said, I'm hoping to go into Rockingham. Oh, you're not. I said, oh. And who comes along? Only David on his bicycle, coming from the stable yards. So once Paddy Carroll saw David arriving, he knew the arrangement, and he said, I said, I'm only going out to David Woodward's, out to Moorlands. So like I got in that, like he opened the gate, and like there was kind of an old bell that you could press as well, like on the gate if you to have it opened. But David showed me all around it, not around the house inside now, but all the grounds like. We used to spend hours and hours kind of going down through the well-known walks. My memory may go in spots now, trying to remember some of them. There's a very well-known walk at the moment, I suppose, people going off the.
Is it the Bog Gardens, Christy?
Park Garden. That's right. I don't know where the garden there in Bloom like that, but that area.
Yes, down at
there.
the bridge.
Right.
Yeah,
that's right. Yes, and there was supposed to be a ghost. David used to say that was seen down there one time, but he seemed to be more like the story of a gamekeeper keeping the poachers out.
Exactly.
No.
But David used to say that there was a ghost seen down there a few times, and he said, we won't go down. It's very dark anyway. All the trees are kind of coming together, and he says, it's pitch dark. No, I won't bring it down there. I won't bring it. It'll be on your way to the two bridges. You have the Ferry Bridge and the other one.
You do,
Oh,
Christy?
Because there was canals coming in from the
that's
lake
right.
up to the house.
And I suppose
Up to
then,
the harbour at the house.
and back then, Christy, I suppose, we're thinking of Rockingham as it is today, but back then, all them canals were wide open.
Oh, they were good.
They were being used every day.
Oh, they were being used all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Rockingham had their friends coming in and out. I won't say now there was cruisers around them, but there was always boats, and both of the little inlets were very clear, and the bridges were immaculate. Bridges were obviously hand carved.
Right.
The Theory bridges, and they're still there, like.
Oh, they are.
But David and myself, and then he brought me to the ice house, which it's still there,
It's still
but
there.
there's steps down into it. That I think that's where they used to keep meat if the
warm.
deer or the beef was to keep it chilled. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there was he brought me up as far as the kitchens. The tunnel that's still
The
tunnels
tunnel
that
is still there
go.
too, yeah.
One of them led up as far as the kitchen door. So I remember the first time that he brought me up there, like, and if I forget her name now, she's living in Patrick Street over beside the ball alley, where you go down to the old Miss Tahany, Maura Tahany. And she used to come into the shop, and when she was in the kitchen, and when she saw him, she said, is that Christy Wynne? What are you doing here? So David was along with me, of course. Said, well, David is just showing me round. Oh, is that right? Would you like to see the kitchen? So actually, we ended up in the kitchen for a few minutes, all right, and we left again, but there was a miss, I forget the name, that was over the whole thing. She was the overseer, Miss I just can't think of
Yeah,
her name,
yeah.
but she'd be in the blog that I wrote about. But like we had great times, and then we went over to the gardens, where the Malarkeys are now, where Eamon, God rest him, and the son is there now, Gerard and Austin, and they had a huge garden. So I don't know, about 10, 20 acres of garden, apple trees and all sorts of other fruits as well. So we'd go over there, like, and there was a number of glass houses in it as well, and so on. We might get a few strawberries and things like that. And from your man, I can't think of his name. He was one of the main gardeners in it, and he might give us a few of those, and we'd bring them back then to Moorlands and have them up in Paddy Moorland's kitchen before we went home, with cream. What's his name? But like again, it was a great, it was wonderful experience, Carlo. Really like.
And
there were events in your life that sort of you'll bring them with you to the grave.
Oh,
absolutely.
That made so much an impression.
And then, Christy, do you remember in 1957, I believe, the house then burnt down? Wasn't it 57?
Oh yes.
You were around here at that?
No, I wasn't at it. I was in Dublin.
You were in Dublin.
I was
right.
in Dublin, 1956 or 57, 56. See, it was such a tragedy and such a shock. I always remember happened to be. I might as well kind of finish the story as quickly as I can. I just happened to be a student in Dublin, in Ross's College. It was a place that you could do a commercial course if you wanted to stay for the bank that I was telling you about. The Bank of Aer Lingus, because I didn't do commerce when I was in school, bookkeeping. We did Greek.
Greek? Wow.
When I was in St. Mel, they didn't do commerce. They only did commerce for the leaving. Commerce and bookkeeping, so that I had no commerce, and I was sitting for the bank exam. So I went up to this college in Dublin for 3-4 months, and where I was staying, like one of the mornings, down for breakfast around 9 o'clock, and you had to be in at 9:30 for classes. It was up at top of Stephen's Green, fairly near the old university, and suddenly a fire has occurred in the outside Boyle last night, or this morning, and is still in flames. Rockingham House has been burned, and I remember I couldn't believe it. I was having my breakfast at the time, but apparently it started early the night before. Like when I said the night before, because people next door where we are now, O'Leary's, they were chemists. Old Mr. O'Leary, well, he was not old at that time, in 1956, 57. He went out on a few more, and in a car, I don't know, did Mian O'Callaghan, the late editor of the Herald Works. And Richard McGee, I think, has written a story about it.
He was the last
Brendan's
person
father.
in it, yeah.
A number of them went out. I don't know, did Tom, my brother, who was, I don't know, was he down in the shop at this stage or not, or was he still in school? But anyway, they went out and they helped to bring out a fair amount of stuff, but I mean, only a fraction in comparison to the amount of antique stuff and furniture of every description. But an awful lot of it was destroyed. But that was in September, because I just remember the month, because I wasn't long in Dublin, and having this shock news like at the time, that I couldn't imagine like Rockingham House burnt. It was such a big structure. There was supposed to be 365 windows.
Imagine.
One for every day of the year. That was the old kind of saying. I remember my granny said it, my grandmother. She said there used to be a story that was a window for every day of the year in it. But it was an inferno, but as I say, I wasn't there to experience it, only to read about it.
And Christy, I read in one of your blog posts as well that you made a trip over to London at some stage. You were going to settle over there. You went over for a period of time to London.
Over there, yes.
And was that to find work, or were you over visiting?
Was that when?
Was that to find work back then? Or was it 62? I think. Did you go to London?
62.
You went.
That's right.
Was that over to find work, Christy, or were you thinking of settling down there?
Well, no, I was kind of betwixt and between. I was working with CIE, and here in Boyle, but it was temporary. It was ongoing temporary. There was a kind of like, you may be made permanent within a year or two. But we're not holding an exam for so many years because they didn't want any more staff. This is like the basis of the story in 1962. So I had it as a summer job, but it went on for 2 years. And it was very good in the sense of like, I was at home. So like overheads were more or less nil, if you like to put it that way. Nil. That I was at home and that like the chances were like, or what I was told was, there'll be an exam probably in 2 years' time. And you can sit for it, and having 2 years' experience of bookkeeping, you should have no bother at all. You'll actually kind of, you'd be nearly automatically taken on, but you'd still have to sit for the exam.
Yes.
But that it was nearly I won't say a foregone conclusion, but I knew the whole run of the bookkeeping system and all that, being in the goods office in Boyle. And I used to do relief in Carrick-on-Shannon now and again, and Ballymote an odd time, up and down on the train like in the morning. And so I had a fair amount of experience. So then lo and behold, when the exams were to come up, not alone did an exam not come up, but the new chairman that was after being installed in CAE was a fellow called Todd Andrews, who was the top man in Board Namona before he got to be chairman in CAE. And instead of actually like, I'm not blaming him, but what he proceeded to do was, he started closing stations all over the country. It was Andrews that closed numerous, the ones over what they call the narrow gauges and all that. And he closed stations all. In other words, they were carrying too much staff. It was costing the firm too much. Like they were losing millions and millions. So Andrews did a complete clearance job. What they're trying to do with Twitter or the other one now, or Google. Get out. So he dropped out. I've done many stations. So like, not alone. The only reason I mentioned that, not alone, he didn't close Boyle because Boyle was lucky to have a lot of stuff coming in, particularly for Camden. Camden was a huge customer, and Stewart, but particularly Camden at that time, because he was a huge sugar distributor. He was the second biggest sugar distributor in Ireland. Wow. James Camden in the 50s. But anyway, Andrews closed stations all over, and an exam? Oh, not at all. There won't be an exam for years. So I got in such a huff. I went straight up to the stairs says I'm handing in the Rogelius. He thought it was cotton first. No, I'm serious. I said, what's that? I said, there's no exam coming up. It's obvious, like it's Andrews is after saying they're closing railway stations, they're not taking any more staff, there'll be no exam even to sit. So I'm for it. Says I want 3 passes. You were entitled to 3 free passes if you were already a member of that, for any member of that. Yeah. So I got one for Dublin to go to London. I got one for Belfast the first time I went to it, and the third one was to London. And I went to London like nearly overnight. I was disgusted.
Yeah.
Now, Tom was already in the shop down here with my own mother, and there was a Miss Foley that was married to Paddy Joe Casey, the man that had the little sweet shop. She worked down there as well. So I went off for the 2 years that time, 62, but I never had what you might call my full, my heart in it, like. I loved Boyle. I just loved it. I loved everything about it and the happy memories. So it was a question like a stubbornness and a temporary measure. That sort of, I'll be back like the famous American general. I'll be back.
Yes.
So I did. Within 18 months, I left in May 1962, and I was back in the shop on the 1st of December 63 for the Christmas shopping.
No.
And the Christmas. So, but my time in London, like, I had a great experience. Like, there was Boyle lads in it that I knew, the Colgan lad I mentioned, and the McCarran lad, the station master's son. They were there, those two. A son of Sergeant Line, there was the liners there. Sergeant Line, I had 6 or 7 sons. There was 2 or 3 liners there. So we made, and a brother of Patsy Quinn, that is up in, you know Patsy.
Oh, yes.
Anthony, he's still alive, he's my age. I was inquiring about him lately from Amy Nulty, and he's still alive, but he's not in the best of health. But anyway, they were all there. So we used to meet over there in London on the Friday, Saturday night, have a bit of crack, go to a dance and so on. But I never had any intention of staying in it. I just liked Boyle. I loved Boyle. It was in my blood, and it was just a question of when.
Yes.
When to go home, Christy. And then when you returned home from London, did you automatically then start working in the shop?
Straight away.
Straight away.
Tom had already moved into the bar on the corner.
Right.
So that was the added incentive.
So that was an opening for you.
That was, and we really the added incentive. Like my mother says to me, if you want to come back, she said, Christy, like the shop is there for you. She said, and be nice to have you back at home. But she said, if you're on a very good job over there and promotion or whatever you like, she said, I leave it to yourself, but it'd be lovely to have you at home. So Tom was just after opening up the corner house in 62.
So it
which
was
is
good
still
timing.
there. So I just came in just in time for Christmas 1963.
Right.
And I was there till 2005.
Great
2006.
timing, Christy.
Loved
2006.
every minute of it. I could never say I got up and hated a day going into the shop.
Yeah.
Geez, so from 1963 to 2006.
2005.
2005.
2006.
My God. And I think everyone that's listening will have some memories of coming into Christy Wynne's shop.
Everyone.
Well, I think so.
Oh, they
I
do.
would hope so. And I'll tell you, this is something, the only reason this reminds me now, because I'm asking Martin. That was one of the pictures taken, like when I was going to say, Martin, wouldn't that be nice for if you could get shown it out real boys and so Wynn's sweet shop in its heyday. That's another one, Florence.
That's excellent. What we'll do is, for people listening, we'll take a photo with this, Christy.
There's 40 jerseys, different jerseys each there.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Every one of them is different.
Oh, that's brilliant. We'll put these in the blog post.
Oh,
so
Christy,
that people can
that's
see
exactly
these.
now. And, you know, I
Brings
even
back
have
so many
coming in.
memories.
Yeah, and that would like sort of really, I specialised in latter years when you could see that everybody was selling papers, like. Not that I mind everybody, but it was the trend in life. Filling stations, supermarkets, food markets, all began to sell papers that had access to them. So instead of 3, there was about 13.
Yes.
It's 4 Moriarty's, but then it was in a kind of a smaller way.
Yes.
A few sweets in jars, the papers and the Sunday papers. But there was myself, McDonald's and the Bazaar. And within a year or two of the mid-late 60s, there was 10. So like, if not more, between the filling stations, Corrib, Carty's.
They're all saturated now.
I don't know about the Abbey Garage, and then the supermarkets and all that.
Changed,
so they actually kind of, and then it meant cigarettes as well.
Exactly.
So that like our type of trade, like all news agents, all family news agents are gone.
They are, and it's a shame, Christy.
There's no such thing as a family news, not really any longer.
No.
It's just a food market, a filling station, or a supermarket.
Yeah, and it's such a shame.
The old, as you said, the old independent-owned shops are all slowly disappearing.
Oh yeah, because they all died. They all died.
Yeah, and the bigger franchises are coming in. And
just died.
Yeah.
Every customer will say when everyone had their particular shop to call on.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so many called to Wynne, so many called to Mrs. Fee, and so many called to Rosaline.
Yes.
So many called up to Dimness as well.
The regulars.
But Dimness was very tiny and small. Like she probably sold a good few papers, but like that was it. Maybe a few cigarettes, and Phelan's was the shop for cigarettes. Phelan's had a huge amount of cigarettes.
Just next door to it, wasn't it?
Next door to it, which is still so. Huge, because they were open at 7:30 or 8 in the morning for the council workers and kind of anybody going to the station to get the train at 8 or 8:30. So Phelan's used to be open very early, and but they didn't have papers. Papers were, at the time I know, were sacrosanct. It was like a pub licence. You couldn't get a paper. Outside, when I say you couldn't get a paper, if you were a recognised news agent and you came into Boyle a Google representative, and I'm going to open up the King House. Incidentally, I want papers. You'd be told, sorry, we have 3 in the area already. We don't need any more.
Yeah.
They were that independent that they sort of the Independent, the Times, the Press. They picked the news, and we were all newsies and going back 80 or 100 years.
Yeah.
We were here since 1922.
Right, that's a long time.
Helen Fionn would be nearly the same. Old Mrs. Keeney, maybe not quite as long, because actually that's where my father was before he came down here.
Okay.
We were in the bazaar. He didn't own it; he had it leased.
Right. So the
And
bazaar
then
is equally yours.
when he left in 1922, he came down, and that's it in 1922. No, it'll be a little bit later. Because it was, you'd see bunting and a religious thing.
Yes.
I think it might have been the year of the Congress.
And
But
is
we're
that
there
your-
since 1922 anyway. But anyway, like,
And is that your father?
That's my
We're just
father.
looking at a photo here of
That's-
Christy's father
yeah.
outside the shop in 1920.
22.
And that's the
22.
that's the bazaar, is it? Or
No,
No,
that's
this
here.
is
That's
the
here.
current
That's
shop.
here.
Yeah.
That's here. Yeah.
My God, that's a great
That's a
photo.
great
We'll put
photo.
that in as
We'll
well.
put that in.
The other two, excuse me, Florence, for
Yeah.
a minute, I see. I want to say, yeah, Liam and Moore, who won his Irish, and the lad with his back to it was Alfie Rowe.
Ah.
Rose had a bicycle shop next door, and where Domino had the meat shop, and that's Alfie with his back, his back to the camera.
That's a great
Alfie
photo.
and Bobby that had the garage up there
Yeah.
and to a Trojan.
Right.
That's a great photo, Christy.
But anyway, like, yeah,
And then Christy, you also, I remember as a boy going in, obviously collecting my magazines, the World Cup magazines. I think they were called they were called Obus, I think was the name of them. During the 1990 World Cup, I remember collecting the memorabilia for that. But also there was a lot of fishing tackle you stole, and a lot of fishing rods. I always remember, and wasn't it Teresa and Phil
Phil
down the
Thiessen
back? Yeah.
in laterally, that's
Yeah.
right.
I always
I
remember
had
them
That's right.
down
they
the
were,
back,
yeah.
and they were
Further
great.
back then there was Angela. She came in from Frenchburg. She drove in every day from just above this side of Frenchburg, across it where the little church is on the side of the road. Killaret. Angela something. She was there before, like Teresa came in, and Phil then came in as well, like, because we'd be very busy during the lunch hour.
Oh, massively, Christy.
The lunch hour
Yeah.
for 5 days a week
Yeah.
between us meant more to me than maybe a very good Saturday.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know when I say Saturday, we'll say the shopping day.
Yes.
People coming in that hadn't been in all week. There was a complete flow because I specialised. I said, with the sale of papers going down, and obviously maybe less cigarettes because the person coming in for the paper might get an ounce of tobacco or 20 cigarettes or
Yes.
something like that. All that was kind of had died the death. So I said, is there any way I can make up for the loss of this, like, which just happened the way things just evolved, you know,
Yeah,
life
that's-
and
yeah.
supermarkets, food markets. So I said, I'll push the sweet end of it a bit more, like, and kind of put on as good a variety as I can, you know, to attract them, because I knew, like, sweets, like, every child wants that.
Oh, yeah. And by
So,
God,
like,
did you do it well?
That's why I specialised in the jars. And then
Yeah.
if you know, I used to tell them, look, if they want only 2 ounces of this and 2 ounces, give it to them.
Yeah.
They're a paying customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if they said, do you think Christy could have a few of them? Certainly. He said,
Yeah.
can't you take the one? Don't be bothered with me asking to up another jar. So, like, the point is, we had an hour from around, it would be 1:45 to 1:30. 12, 1:45 to 1:30, and it was a complete kind of like a queue waiting for a bus.
Oh, it was, and I even remember coming in, you know, because it was the last stop before we'd go back to school, because you'd get the whatever sandwich or whatever, and then here'd be the last stop. You'd go back to school then, and sure, everybody be sucking in the class, you know, and the teacher would be like, you were in Christy Wynne's before you came into class.
Oh yeah, I remember the dentist. I don't know which one. I don't know, was it Tom Boyle? I'm joking. I had known him fairly well for a particular reason. And I said, you know, Christy, he said, yeah, you have a lot to answer for. Like, we knew, what do you mean? All those effing Clover that you said, like, there's not a child in the town that has a good tooth. Yourself and your effing Clover and your rubber, he said, a corrosion is sugar. Will you throw the fucking things out altogether? He said, there's not a child in Boyle has a decent sense of teeth. Well, you know, kind of, come joke and come kind of like, of course, Clover were kind of supposed to be deadly.
But weren't you good for his business then in that case, Christy?
Yeah, I didn't think of saying that. I didn't. I'm in the own making customers fly or finding customers.
No.
But anyway, I remember him saying that over. He said, not a child in the town has a good set of teeth. With all that. So anyway, that was that in a bit.
Oh yeah, great memories, Christy, for everyone in the town.
Absolutely,
from Christy Wynne's shop. And then Christy, just in one of your, I suppose, you know, we're in your house now. You've lived here your whole life, bar them 2 years that you left to go to London. And I read in one of the blog posts, you said you've been looking out through the same window for whatever, over half a century, and how things have changed. And just talking on from the success of the shop and that, I saw in one of the posts you described the closed shops that you look out at today as graves without a headstone.
Oh yes, yeah, exactly.
Which is very, very true, because even listening to you talking there about your mother and the old days in the shop and your own time in the shop, there was life to the place.
Oh yeah, of course, exactly.
Know,
it was the lifeblood.
It was the lifeblood of the town.
And you go up, and especially on the far side, like McDonald's is occupied again now, like bicycles. But like, okay, Helen was there until Frank and then Lisa. But Jimmy Milani, which was a great big shop, was left empty for a number of years. The next one, Josie had a boutique. I don't think the cleaners had arrived. Now, I'm not sure about the cleaners. Maybe your man had come all right. That's still in Boyle. What do you call them? That the sons are in.
That was the
Walshes. Trees
and all wasn't that. The Walshes, Tony Walsh, wasn't it?
The washing one.
Richie Walsh.
But anyway, like kind of taken all in all, like, to think of the different shops the whole way up, an awful lot of them were kind of just vacant or closed. And Sheern's shop up there, further up the street, closed. McNamara's used to be, well, it was a shop cum restaurant, closed. Eileen Graham, a little musical shop, closed. When I say closed, nothing, just empty windows. And as I say, to come back down as far as Jimmy Milani's, the bank, that was the old Bank of Ireland, where that shop there now. Is she married to Neil Stewart?
Oh, the yoga.
The yoga.
Okay.
Empty as well. That was the old bank building. Empty window. The whole place down, and then much the same on the other side. Brady's closed some time back, and Mary McGee would have been there all the time. Sloan's, but then you came on down to I don't know what Johnny Green in it at that time. But all I know is that, like, to get back, Florrie, to what you were saying, at one stage, like, it'll bring me to tears sometimes when I stand and I'd look and I think all the activity and the people in and out, like, every day. From the early morning, you'd hear people, I always slept to the front, and you'd hear people talking and they'd be laughing. And as I said, dogs barking.
Yes.
That sort of thing. There was always activity apart from cars up and down. But you wouldn't see a sinner soul now. Nothing.
No, nothing.
Nothing.
And going
so
back
that's
to...
like it's
so
so sad. Like
it's
it
sad,
really
Christy.
is sad. It's kind of the sheer blood, lifeblood of the street.
Gone. Even going back, Christy, to what you were saying about you could play football along there and there wouldn't be a car to be seen. Nowadays, you don't even see children out in the street playing. Like when I was young, there was kids out in the street playing, as you remember, in Tarmanflower. But nowadays, there's no kids out in the street playing.
Oh, not at all. No.
It's a forgotten...
That way of life is gone. As well, you know. That way of...
And it's a sad...
Well, they've gone a bit more sophisticated in terms of there's so many new electrical appliances. And the phone pads is what you call.
Yes.
No matter where you go.
Yeah.
There's somebody fully occupied.
Yeah.
That's it.
And as we always say,
Reading the messages or whatever,
is
whether
it.
they're sending messages or getting them, but constantly. And you see them in pubs here on the road, they hardly talk to you. They're
Yeah.
just reading.
That's it.
To get back, it is sad, like to see a town nearly dead.
yeah,
It is.
it's so
A ghost
sad.
town in a
Comparison
way.
to
A
Yeah.
ghost town in a way.
The memories that I would. The noise of the children, like laughing and crying and this, that and the other, and
Yeah.
bang, bang and so on, and so cowboys
Yeah,
coming out of
of
the barracks
course.
and so on.
And even you would have seen a lot of stray dogs and cats back then as
Oh
well.
yeah,
Now,
nearly every house had a dog
You don't
or
see
a
it now.
cat.
Yeah.
You never see one.
you
now
don't
at all.
like the kids though. You don't see them out anymore.
Oh, not at all.
But should
not
there
at all.
too-
I used to have that. I had, you remember, our own dog. Like I have heard of him, Woody. Woody, my friend, he was. There's no doubt about it.
Lovely
Dog is a great
dog.
companion though.
Pardon?
The dogs are great
Oh, yeah,
companions.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
I was often kind of tempted to get another, but shortly after he died, a person gave me a cat, kind of domesticated. Do you remember Jane Livingston? That used to. She had a kind of a shop
know her.
over there opposite McGrath. Was also in Junkin. Not Sir now. With all the antique. She lived in Ballinameen, but she was.
Yeah,
she
recently,
was,
Christy, like
Jane
not,
Livingston.
Yeah.
Jane used to be in and out of the shop, and I don't know if she's still up around Ballinameen. Her husband died, but she arrived in with a cat shortly after Woody died, and I did not say no, Jane. I was kind of going to get another dog, but I got this cat then, and sort of like I didn't want a clash of personalities. There's Woody still there up on the sideboard. Florence, that's his ashes. That's his ashes in the little brown box. And the little woolen structure, the lady vest that used to treat him up in Barry Lynch's, she knit him for me.
Ah.
I'll take
They
a
were
photo
very
of that
fond
and
of
I'll put
Woody,
it into the blog
and
post as
she's
well.
but the little box
Wooden box.
is his ashes.
Ah. And what year did he die, Christy?
He said, I forget what year he been dead about 6-7 years now.
Ah.
And had you had
He died in the veterinary college in Dublin, and they rang me about it then, and sort of like I was kind of heartbroken. I
you
was
would
so
be
fond.
worse.
Christy, you
But
would
I
be.
said like I didn't like to, I still kind of wanted to have him and so on, but he had died in Dublin. So she said, Mr. Wynne, she said, we could have him cremated. And like I thought she was joking. Well, not so much joke, but cremated. Oh, she said, she said, we do cremation of pet animals.
yeah.
She said, it's very very common.
Yeah.
She said, we can have Woody cremated if you wanted his ashes. God, said that'd be grand. So I said, kind of, what sort of money would you be talking about? Well, she said, 250 in a nice little wooden box, his name on it, and his ashes, and so on, and register post,
Yes.
handed in by hand. So I said, go ahead.
Worth every
Worth
cent.
every
So-
cent.
so
That's nice.
Yeah.
That's a nice
really-
little memory of him.
So that's Woody anyway. But like, no, as I say, to get back to what I said, I was often tempted to get a dog again, but like, haven't got the cat then, like, and I said, he is domesticated and he's an old pet.
Yeah.
But like Woody was really kind of like
They're like a friend, Christy.
Pardon?
They're like a friend.
Oh, no, they're semi-human.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, Christy, I think one of the questions I'd like to ask is, do you have any regrets in life? Would you have any regrets that you'd look back on?
Not really, no, nothing as such. No, I haven't any regrets. I think everything kind of like, well, of course, Teresa dying was, but like, I mean, I say regrets. That was just that's just life.
That's
evolving,
life, yeah.
and you're just unlucky, the
You've
same
no
as
control.
unfortunate,
Yeah.
no more than others. Like you
Of
know what I mean?
course, yeah.
Equally young to get some kind of a lethal infection or a disease and to die, and that's that, and there's nothing you can. So that really, like, there's nothing that I could kind of really.
Well, that's good,
kind of
because,
look
you know,
back
sometimes-
and regret it. I'm sorry I didn't do that, or I had my mind made up, like, call it a regret or that I wouldn't get married again.
Yeah.
It was a fixation of my own. When I say fixation, I had seen a few instances, and this is what kind of made my mind up. I'm not sure whether I'd meet anyone that would marry me again anyway. But the point is, I'm only saying that, like, I had seen a few instances of where the man got married again, and then there was another family, and the second family, and the member or two of the first family seemed to disappear off the radar. I knew one or two instances of it, like, and I used to say, well, no, I wouldn't like that. Like, Martin was 3.5, Deirdre was 1.5 years. And I used to say, like, I'd be thinking, doing a lot of thinking, plenty of time to think. And I used to say, well, no, if I did meet somebody that sort of would be prepared to take me, or sort of say, yeah, well, I wouldn't mind, well, and so on, and have 2 children to be responsible, and then have a few more children. I wouldn't like to feel that Martin would, as Deirdre would kind of do a bit of it disappear. Like from about 18 or 19, they were going, actually, there's another family down the line. I was kind of like...
You were thinking long term, yeah.
So like, the only reason I would mention that, people used to often say to me, it's a wonder you never got married again, Christy, you know. And you kind of should have, or kind of, you should have had no bother and this kind of thing. But like, I just had my own mind made up. And so that in that sense, I have no regrets.
Brilliant.
It's right for you, Christy.
And everything else worked out in terms of the shop and so on and
exactly.
so forth. Like, as things faded in the shop, you know, due to the type of business and what I told you already, the whole background, I was reaching a stage of retirement anyway. Because undoubtedly, like, the days, as I said already, of the small newsagent were numbered. As Helen and Keeney's, every place else, you know, Murray, I'd be all same in every other small town. So, like, the point is, like, I could see kind of the writing on the wall, but, like, I was quite happy that I did what I did. Things had worked out
very well.
Exactly.
Very well for me,
well,
and so on. So I said, end up story, no regrets.
Good man, Christy.
That's brilliant, Christy.
Good man.
That's fair play.
Thank God.
And I'd like to ask you, Christy, obviously you expressed your love of Boyle there numerous times, and it's evident considering you never left. You never left us. But what's your favourite thing about Boyle, if you had to pick? Is there anything?
I would say the friendship, the camaraderie. There was always a camaraderie or a friendship that it was a nice town to live in. Like now that's maybe that sounds strange for a man already living there all my life, but undoubtedly I always felt that like the people that came and went, they obviously make a town. But we were lucky that we always, whether it was that the visitor or the stranger coming in was made welcome.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was a very famous saying of, there was an old pub up there where Callahan's, if you ever heard of Alice and those guys, where Matt Smith had pub.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Alice and Maud Chute. 2 ladies, 2 sisters, one of them a widow, the other was never married. But a great drinking house in terms of like the kitchen was actually the lounge. You went in and sat in the kitchen at the cooker, and there was a little small public pub in a bar in front, small counter, and a little tiny tap room off that again. But they had a lot of regulars of a middle-aged kind of vintage, that kind of. But Alice used to say like, somebody new would be coming in, like, might be into the bank, or it could be the post office, or it could be the railway station, or it could be a teacher. And Alice used to say, look, Boyle. So Boyle is the stranger's paradise. Aren't they all welcome?
Yeah.
So that was a great saying of her. Alice would say, Boyle, the stranger's paradise. Because no stranger, I think, in my own memory, I honestly could nearly answer for them and say, I don't think any visitor or a newcomer could ever say, I hated that bloody town, like they're a funny lot, or they don't accept you.
Yeah.
There are towns like that
Oh,
you
there
find
are,
hard,
there's
you
cliques.
find hard
yeah.
to fit in, or they don't mix them. I just say hello, like, but there's not much help. There's not much kind of help you along to make you feel welcome.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now,
Boyle is a very
Boyle,
welcoming
that's
town.
the thing I would have to voice about Boyle.
Yeah. The
That
community.
everybody
of people.
whoever came in working
Yeah.
liked it and could never, I think, truthfully say, I'm glad I saw the tail end of it.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
until I got over it.
Good man,
That's
Christy.
good man, Christy.
And I suppose one last thing, given the experience you have in life and the path that you've been down, Christy, for all the young people listening, what life advice would you give them? One bit of advice to live a happy life, what would you say?
Well, I suppose like it might sound a bit too philosophical, but like I would say, like, treat everybody as you would like yourself to be treated. You know, like sort of treat everybody almost when I say as an equal. That sort of they're a human being.
We're all equal in that respect.
They're a human being, and they deserve the same amount of respect as you would expect yourself. So that like that would be the advice. I treat them as you get to know them, as you would expect to be treated yourself.
Great,
That'd
Christy.
be my-
Well, I think we'll finish on that.
Yes.
Well,
Very wise
thanks, Florence.
words.
I've absolutely enjoyed the last hour and so.
Yeah.
We've been
Good.
welcomed.
As long as I didn't spoof too
No,
much.
you
did
did
not.
not.
At times I
There's
kind
going-
of
there's going to-
I get lost with my own
Not
kind
at
of
all.
like
And
thoughts.
there's going to be a lot of interested ears waiting to hear this episode. So they are, Christy. So
So much so, Christy, we might have to do a part 2.
thank you very much, Christy, for welcoming us into your
You're
home.
very welcome,
Thank you very much.
Carlo
Thank you,
and
Chris.
Florence. Very well. Delighted to have you, and delighted to be given the opportunity to voice some of my opinions and my love of Boyle.
Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much,
Christy.
Christy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So that's it for this episode, folks. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you like the content, we'd really appreciate it if you could share it. You can follow us on Facebook by searching for Voices of Boyle, and you can also contact us on our website by visiting voicesofboyle.com. We're always looking for new guests, so if you'd like to be on the show, or if you know someone who you'd like to join us, please reach out to us via our Facebook page or website. Thanks very much, and we'll chat to you again soon.